The second most common obstacle to setting boundaries is the belief that a boundary is telling the other person what they need to do. So, let's take a better look at how to set boundaries in a way that actually works. Setting boundaries is about taking action within your realm of control. If you're trying to change another person, you're focusing on changing something that you have no power over. It creates a sense of powerlessness. And I think that's why a lot of people feel frustrated about boundaries. For example, you can't talk to me that way. I mean, is that true? I mean, of course they can talk to you that way. Now, there might be consequences for them doing it, but they can talk to you that way. A real boundary is saying what you're going to do in response to their behaviors. Let's use an example from my treatment center experience. So I once had this client who arrived in treatment, and for 3 days, she didn't talk, eat, or take her medicine. Now, after a couple days, we were all feeling pretty worried, and the staff came to our weekly meeting, basically, in a panic, saying, you have to do something, you have to make her eat. Now, what were our options, right? We couldn't force food into her mouth and move her jaw up and down. Like, that's not going to do anything. We could threaten her, say, if you don't eat, then we're going to punish you later. Or if you don't eat, bad things are going to happen to you. What were our other options? We could throw a little fit. I could scream and yell, make a big scene about it. But again, she would always have that choice of whether or not she eats. Now, the more anxious we get, the more likely we're going to be doing things that aren't intentional and try to be more and more forceful. And the problem with that is, if the deeper problem with most people has nothing to do with the surface behavior, if the deeper problem is about anxiety or self-worth, then the harder we force, the bigger the problem is going to be. So with this client, she was feeling really scared and looking for some control in her environment. And the more we forced it upon her, the less likely she was going to be able to resolve that need for safety and self-control. Now remember, all these different options that we could talk about in that staff meeting were probably going to make the problem worse. Why is that? Well, the more we push on someone else, the more they're going to push back. The harder we try and make our child do something, the less likely they're going to want to do that on their own in the future. Now, I'm not saying that we just give up and let our kid or our employees do whatever they want, right? Research shows that laissez-faire parenting, meaning just kind of letting kids run themselves, is just as harmful for kids as authoritarian, harsh parenting. The type of parenting that creates the best results is high love, high boundaries. So you have high expectations, and you're also fostering that in this environment of love and support. So how do we set boundaries if we aren't focusing on telling someone else what they need to do? Boundaries are about saying what you will do. So they often involve an if-then statement. Like, if you don't eat your food, then you can't have ice cream later. I'm not necessarily saying that this is the only approach or the best approach to the not eating situation, but it is the basic idea behind it. Is we have to think of boundaries as being about saying what we are going to do and the action we are going to take in response to a situation. And part of this is just acknowledging that everyone around us has their own agency. They have the ability to choose what kind of decisions they're going to make, and trying to force them to change is going to backfire. When adults interact and try to set boundaries, they often try to convince someone else, debate with them, or change how that person is treating them. Perhaps they demand that the other person treat them differently. Regardless of the exact approach, all of these different styles are attempts at getting the other person to change, which creates a powerless feeling for the person who's trying to set that boundary. So, let's talk about a few steps to setting good, healthy, assertive boundaries. This topic is continued in the next video, How to Set Boundaries Part 2. Check it out to hear what happened with my client and learn specific steps to setting boundaries in different situations. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and take care.